So we've got an update from the court for you because the former Maslock CEO, Sedina Tamaklo, has been sentenced to 10 years in hard labor. The glitch here is that she's out of the country, but she's been out of the country for some years now. So she's been sentenced in absentia. We have details plus reaction from lawyers that represented her in court today and what this means going forward now that she's out of the country and she's been sentenced in absentia. But this time, let's talk about power. Now, yesterday, between 10 a.m. and up until this morning, 8 a.m., I had no access to electricity. I slept in darkness. And I guess a lot of you experience the same situation. Even as we speak, some of you are in darkness. Now, this afternoon, on the polls, the reliability of Ghana's power distribution system is under scrutiny. And this is following revelation by the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission that the system-wide outages attributed to transformer overloads by the ECG may not be accurate. You will recall that the Electricity Company of Ghana attributed disruption in power supply to overloaded transformers, but detailed analysis of transformer data provided by the ECG to PURC revealed that majority of the outages occurring during peak evening hours are actually linked to load management operations by GridCo and unrelated faults. This discrepancy challenges the ECG's assertion, prompting the PURC to delve deeper into the root causes of these disruptions. And this afternoon, we have a detailed, catalog of issues that have been brought forth by the PURC. And my colleague, Isaac Kofi Ajay, joins me in studio to unpack the PURC's findings. Kofi, welcome to the pause.
Thank you, Elton.
So, very detailed issues that have been provided by the PURC in reaction to this matter. Let's start with the outages.
So for the outages, we are talking about, just like you said, the transformers that ECG attributed a number of the power outages to them. And I am reading from the PURC's statement or their findings on these claims. Now, according to the PURC, out of the 715 transformer details submitted, 31 were loaded less than 70%. So out of the 715, 31 were loaded less than 70%. 595, majority of them were loaded between 70 and 100%. And 89 were loaded above 100. So these are the ones that you can say transformer overload. Those that were loaded above 100 were 89 out of the 715 transformers that the details that ECG actually presented to the PURC. Now, according to the PURC, the data submitted by ECG was further compared to their total outage data provided by ECG again for the period January to March 18, 2024. Now, these were the findings.
Right.
The commission established that 649 outage incidents occurred between 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. If you are watching us from home, you know that this is the peak period that we usually, take our power and then we virtually sleep in darkness. Now, out of the 646 outage incidents, only 3 were planned outages relating to transformers.
Only 3? Only
3 of them.
And the 3, in terms of percentage, that's like 0.something%.
It's not even up to 1%.
But yet, we had been told by the ECG, because they were dealing with over 600 transformers. That was the reason why we were experiencing the power outages. But we also, now, from the point of PURC, that is inaccurate.
That's inaccurate.
That can be described as a lie.
Now, if let me quote what the PURC actually says. It says ECG's attribution of the outages between 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. to transformer overload was therefore not factually accurate. So that's how the PURC, terms or actually describe ECG's claim. They say it is factually inaccurate.
Does the PURC document point to the reason why we're experiencing power outage within that period, if it wasn't as a result of transformer overload? Well,
so the PURC actually put out some of the, the planned maintenance, things that they were doing. And most of them, they say that most of the, the power outages that we have, over 4,000 of them, that ECG said they actually had power outage within the period under review. Most of them were not as a result of the transformers, but rather because of the the fuel issues we've been facing and the cost and all of those things. But if you look at, based on the PURC's findings on the cash waterfall...
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, because there appears to be challenging in terms of financial flow
Yeah.
to meet the dictates of the cash waterfall mechanism arrangement?
Well, so the ECGs, you know, according to the PURC, so ECGs partially complied with the Commission's order for honoring, you know, the obligations under the cash waterfall mechanism. It simply means that ECG was supposed to do a certain responsibility. They could not, you know, adhere to all 100% of them. Now, an amount of 446.3 million cedis is to be paid by the ECG for August 2023 to February 2024. However, remains outstanding. So it simply means, you know, the cash waterfall mechanism, there are, let me say, 3 players.
Right.
So we have ECG. We also have the, you know, the other stakeholders, the IPPs, and then the other domestic power producers. We also have the finance ministry there. Now, the PURC, according to them, were expecting ECG over this period under review to collect a revenue of, let's say, 8.8 billion Ghana cedis.
In fact, if you go through, it says to meet PURC benchmark collection ratio of 98%, the ECG should have collected tariff revenue of approximately 8.8 billion Ghana cedis based on the company's declared sales. To satisfy the temporal measure agreed under the cash waterfall mechanism, ECG was expected to collect 7 billion cedis to be allocated to the sector players along the electricity supply value chain category A and B. However, the total tariff revenue ECG declared to the cash waterfall mechanism to be allocated to both category A and B beneficiaries was 4.8 billion Ghana cedis. Of this amount, 466 million to be allocated to category B beneficiary remains unpaid by the ECG.
Very clear. I mean, the first statement that came out, I think somewhere March or February, PURC was very categorical on this, that ECG was not making payment to the category B. We have 2 categories under the cash waterfall mechanism. The category A guys are the IPPs, those the independent power producers. And we seem to be paying those guys, but the category B, which most of them are state-owned enterprises, ECG is not paying these companies.
Right.
But the question is, if you collect revenue of 4.8, almost 4.9 billion Ghana cedis, and you've told PURC that over 400 million cedis is supposed to go to the category B, and since August 2023, you've not honored this obligation, then what is really the situation? Why haven't you been able to pay the category B, you know, guys? But you've gone ahead to
collect the money. But remember also that when the managing director of the ECG spoke to Evans Mess on Top Story sometime, I think last month, the explanation he provided was to the effect that he had, you know, clearance from the finance minister to use part of the revenue collected under the cash waterfall mechanism to procure fuel to power the generators so that there will be power supply. Does that answer this, you know, this issue raised by PURC?
I think it gives us some sort of clarity because according to the same PURC, somewhere February or March, they said that the finance ministry is supposed to make some commitment of 200 million Ghana cedis. That since August 2023 has not done that. And you heard Dubik Mahama saying that we anticipated that we're going to have shortfalls in fuel, so we had to go ahead to buy the fuel. We reached out to the finance ministry. They said you should go ahead. We'll reimburse you. Till date, I don't know whether the finance ministry has gone ahead to reimburse the ECG, but they say that, or the PURC says that the finance ministry, under the cash waterfall mechanism, is supposed to pay the remaining gap.
Right.
And they've not done that since August 20.
But Kofi, you've been watching this space. I mean, what is the implications of this?
Well, so if we are looking at the implication, let's start from the smallest one.
Right.
Now, there are sanctions. I mean, sanctions for, you know, the PURC.
For not complying.
Exactly.
Yes.
ECG bosses. Now, it will shock you that ECG has told PURC they have 61 bank accounts, separate bank accounts. And according to the
even though we understand that at a cabinet retreat, the president directed them to maintain just one account.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, monies that come in and go can be tracked, and that there could be revenue assurances here and there. Now, as it came up, ECG is rather operating 61 bank accounts. How many banks do we even have in this country?
We have 23 banks, commercial banks, and ECG has 61 bank accounts. I don't know why, but we are also understanding that this is an IMF condition. It's a new structural benchmark that Ghana has to meet, and it's captured in the IMF Article 4 review. And it states categorically that ECG must have one centralized bank account, and this account must be, you know, audited every quarter. They are doing this to reduce the collection shortfalls that ECG has been having. And there were timelines for ECG to meet. Bringing all this account into one account was supposed to end, they were supposed to complete it by September 2023. They've not done that. And then also, the first audits of the centralized account was supposed to happen end of February this year. That has also not been done. So it means that ECG has breached an IMF structural benchmark that was supposed to be done February, end of February 2024.
Right.
It's not been able to do that.
Clear violation. But there are issues that PURC demanded ECG to provide. And according to this communication from PURC, ECG failed to do so. One of them is that ECG should provide evidence of publication. They've done that. They said load management timetable corresponding with the timelines and duration for each transformer injection. ECG has not complied with this. No document was submitted to the PURC.
I mean, if you listen to the PURC, the statement, it is stated in there that ECG told them they did over 4,000 power outages in the period under review. Now, out of that 4,000, ECG submitted documents to justify some of them or to say that we sent notifications around. PURC is saying that most of these documents were actually, I think, about just 160 out of 4,000. Now, if you strike an average, it means that within the time under review, the number of power outages a day was around 40.
Exactly.
And that's so scary that, I mean, ECG is now admitting that there were over 4,000 power outages. And then also the fact that if you read the PURC statement, there is the fact that ECG has not been able to comply with the Dumsor, or let me say, power outage timetable.
Right, they've not, but they are even yet to submit or to respond to this.
And ECG gave a clear indication why maybe they could not do that, because they say, I mean, they were partially blaming Gridco as well, saying that instead of Gridco telling us that plan load shedding within a very significant period, Gridco waits 30 minutes to time or 2 hours or an hour. In fact, there were some points where they said that sometimes Gridco will even tell them that they are fine, and then when they are about to just go out, then Gridco will tell them that, oh, we have to shed this number of load, and that makes them to actually carry out the power outages without giving the public the prior notice.
But then if we also check, there's a part relating to this particular demand that they've met, even though PURC is yet to review the documents. The volume of load curtailed for each power outage incident, the energy not served, a number of customers affected, segregated into various customer categories, and they've complied. But PURC says that they are yet to review this document. In all, PURC is just not taking this line now, and now they've taken certain actions, and the demand is that ECG and people who have been identified comply with it. Can you walk us through the punishment regime?
Well, let me start with the smallest, which is the failure to comply with the bank statement, the merger. So, according to PURC, the failure to submit details of all bank statements to the commission by the stated date, the commission hereby imposes an initial regulatory charge of 3,000 penalty units on ECG in accordance with regulation 45 of the LI 2413, amounting to 36,000 Ghana cedis. So ECG's failure to provide the monthly bank statement has actually caused a fine of 36,000 Ghana cedis. Now let's go to the most significant one, which is the Dumsor notification, or the notification and publication on planned outages. Now, before PURC dished out this punishment, in fact, they were anticipating or they were contemplating whether they should put this charge on ECG as a company. But they realized that if they do that, then it's simply going to affect ECG's revenue, because already they are not even able to collect enough to pay all the stakeholders in the cash waterfall mechanism. So they have decided to place a fine of almost 5.9 billion Ghana cedis, million Ghana cedis on the board members of the ECG, and they've given them a timeline to actually comply with, which is 30th May 2024. And in fact, they want them to pay this money into the joint Ministry of Energy and Finance Ministry, account on the fuel account. So go and pay that money into the fuel account, which is held jointly by the Ministry of Energy and the Finance Ministry. They looked at ECG and they realized if they put the fine on them as a company, it will be very difficult for them to maneuver around in terms of complying with the cash waterfall mechanism. So they've decided to put the fine rather on board members who served. I think there's a period that they stated that there's board members who served within a certain period that ECG did not comply with this directive, and so the fine is almost 5.9.
Over 5.8. To be shared among the board members, including the managing director of the ECG. Do we have a response from the ECG?
Well, we don't have a response now from the ECG, but we know that the PURC has given them deadlines for them to provide details.
It's very interesting that this has come at a time where the ECG MD is out of town. It's in London at the moment. Government abrogated the government PDS contracts, and PDS felt the abrogation was unlawful, so they took the matter to court. So there's an arbitration going on in London right now. And my information is that the MD of ECG is already in London, together with lawyers, trying to see if they can resolve this matter once and for all. But this is clearly the first time PUC is coming so hard on a utility provider. Gridco is a key part. It's interesting that they've been left out of this discussion.
Finance Ministry have all been left out. In fact, if you are talking about direct supervision, then Gridco should also be pulled into this whole equation because it's not just ECG. So what is PURC also doing about ECG? And then also the Finance Ministry that is supposed to perform a certain role under the cash waterfall mechanism, but has not done that since August 2023.
Right.
Why has all the blame been pushed on ECG? Is it because they are the ones collecting the revenue and they are supposed to even pay other sector players? And so, we need to find a 360 view of this whole thing. And I know that they are beginning to analyze some of the data that ECG has provided to them, and some interesting findings will come out very soon.
Kofi, thank you very much for coming through. And in fact, this is what the PURC, this is what they've put out. They're making some demand. In fact, the amount of money involved is almost 6 million Ghana cedis. This is a fine imposed on the board of directors of the ECG. The only person who is out of this cage is the current board chair of ECG, Herbert Krapper, because he came in at the time the damage had been done. And so the managing director and the other board members, they are supposed to pay this from their pocket, almost 6 million Ghana cedis, for failing to provide some information that the PURC required from them. We will come to explore the ramifications of this and whether or not the PURC has taken a giant step when we speak to a member of the Energy Committee of Parliament, Edward Bauer, and of course we'll also speak to the ECG Workers Union because they also have a concern regarding this matter, plus other issues when we return from this short break.